WSL. If you think it's easy being in my skates, think again. Brian Gallagher and Eric Slopey were out on a jam in this game between the Rustlers and the Quakes. When they got to the pack collapsed, and they had to go airborne. How many points would you give him? When Gallagher jumps the pack, he lands on the track, but Slopey lands on the infield. It's illegal for a jammer to pass on the infield. That means Gallagher gets 4 points, and Slopey gets a donut. Now you know the rule.
Sean Corbett, an outstanding referee. We'll be right back. It's the California Quakes 5, the Nevada Hot Dice 4 as we begin the second period. The men are on the track on the first period for the California Quakes. Very balanced scoring. And for Nevada, it was almost all Hawk Mindy Smith.
Well, we talked about it was going to be very important for Mindy Smith to get it done in the first half to complement that showgirl sizzle. Well, she delivered, Ken. She's juking and jabbing. Great job in the first half by Mindy Smith against the Bod Squad and the rest of the California Quake women.
With the men on the track, you've got to wonder, well, the layoff hurt Richard Brown.
Well, you know he's going to be a little rusty, but he's going to definitely provide a lift to his teammates, Ken.
And starting for the California Quakes, Anthony Santiago, Chad Vaughn, Rusty Montgomery, Gary Lockamy, and Captain Sean Atkinson. For the Nevada Hot Dice, Christian Salvia, Mark Weber, Randy Garrett, Vinny Mormondo, and in the shock of the day, little Richard Brown back in the starting lineup for the Hot Dice.
In the second period, of course, as we all know as our card girl gets around.
And right away, we're underway, and coming out for the Nevada Hot Dice is Christian Salvia. And coming up for the California Quakes, another of the young Turks of the WSL, this is Anthony Santiago. Santiago out and over the railing corner, courtesy of Christian Salvia out of New Jersey. Salvia 5'9", only 141 pounds. And there is a love machine by Christian Salvia. He knew Santiago was over and gone, had nothing to worry about, so he took a moment to strut his stuff.
And I know that's your favorite, Ken.
Oh, definitely. For lack of a better term, Chad Vaughn now back to block out, and a big elbow stops Salvia right in his tracks. Again, they come around now, Richard Brown. And oh, Mark Weber trying to set up for a roll them bones. Didn't quite get it, but it certainly did the job of stopping one of the Quakes in his path. That is Chad Vaughn out of Atlanta, Georgia, as he bites on the track. But nonetheless, the Hot Dice pick up one, as do the Quakes.
And we saw Chad Vaughn take out Christian Salvia after the love machine, but then Mark Weber, not to be outdone. We've talked about him being an important part of the future for these Nevada Hot Dice. With or without little Richard Brown, he got it done at the end of that jam there, Ken.
Still a one-point game. That was Weber out of Cincinnati, 5'10", but a very solid 200 pounds. And now one of the Quakes is dropped to the track again, and breaking out for the Hot Dice, Vinny Mormondo out of DeBary, Florida, 140 pounds. And he's being pursued as they come around. We'll check the number. That's Gary Lockamy for the California Quakes. Lockamy out of Daytona Beach, and down goes Mormondo. Here comes Lockamy as they come around, 5'11", 180.
And a very important thing for the Quakes to keep in mind here, Ken, is that emotional lift, having little Richard Brown suddenly appear here. They need to take the wind out of the sails of these Nevada Hot Dice early.
And now coming up, and it's still a one-point game. And a double block being set up by Sean Atkinson and broken up courtesy of Atkinson. And the Superman allows Lockamy to come through and pick up 2 points for the California Quakes.
Well, he must have been listening to me, Ken, because I said he's got to get the wind out of the sails of these Nevada Hot Dice, who seem to be on an emotional high with the sudden reemergence of little Richard Brown. Will take Sean Atkinson. He's a smart, crafty one. And right here you saw smart and you saw craft as the Superman leaves Nevada Hot Dice on the track everywhere, and the California Quakes score points. Little celebration going on in California, Ken.
And it's a 3-point lead for California as we are midway through the second period. And Richard Brown has been very quiet so far. I perhaps look for Brown to put a jammer helmet right on. And now Brown helps a Hot Dice set up an atomic whip +1. But nonetheless, coming out is Mark James for the California Quakes in the lead. And it's Tony Santiago and number 33, Micah Martin for the Nevada Hot Dice. First time we've called Martin's name. Usually Martin, one of their go-to jammers. Micah Martin takes down both the California Quakes, gets up to his skates very, very quickly as he comes around. There's no question the Hot Dice need some points to stay in this one now. Richard Brown levels. It looks like Rusty Montgomery. And now Sean Atkinson tries to tie up Micah Martin, but Martin is able to get by both Montgomery and Atkinson, and Brown and Atkinson are going at it, but it's 2 points for the Quakes.
And Sean Atkinson promised Attack justice, and look at Richard Brown going after the knee, a la what he did to J.R. Widener of the New York Enforcers to get him booted out of the league, Ken.
And very quickly, not to mislead anyone, I beg your pardon, it was 2 points scored by Micah Martin to pull the hot dice within 1.
And you see Micah Martin right there. I tell you, he earned the points, but he did it the hard way. Is on the tail end of that, he got the big shoulder from Sean Atkinson, and little Richard Brown makes a statement his first time back here in the World Skating League.
You've got to look at Commissioner Jerry Seltzer. He saw Richard Brown going right for the knee of Sean Atkinson. Remember, it was Richard Brown's deliberate attempt to injure J.R. Widener and tore his ACL that caused his suspension, and we just saw Brown again deliberately attempt to injure Sean Atkinson. Now it's number 13, Eric Slopey, as they come around, and now the whip from P.J. Rossi, and that springs free Micah Martin, or rather Micah Martin springs free P.J. Rossi, but it's number 13, Eric Slopey, with the big elbow.
And there it is.
Slopey gets on the white pony out of DeLand, Florida, 6 feet, 155 pounds.
And you knew Slopey wasn't going to be outdone by Salvia's Love Machine. We saw the white pony right there.
And he comes around very quickly, and now closes in. Back to block is Mark Weber, trying to block out, but you see the Quakes come back. Big Rusty Montgomery. Weber now taking a bead, and again Slopey trying to come around. Weber doing a good job of blocking him out. Rusty Montgomery sends Weber out and over the railing. Slopey goes by and very quickly cuts off the jam after picking up 1 point.
And right there, Ken, you saw the battle of two players immersed in controversy. Mark Weber, who we talked about having to step up with the loss of Little Richard Brown. Of course, today Little Richard's back, and at the end we saw Rusty Montgomery. It's no surprise that he has made it sure that everybody knows he does not like the relationship that Sean Atkinson may or may not be in. He made it physical right there. He's taking it personal, Ken.
And now Mark James out for the California Quakes, and coming around, this is Micah Martin for the Nevada Hot Dice. Martin by far the quicker of the two. Micah Martin with the green hair. He is a hot dice through and through, and the biggest surprise to me in this second period, maybe he just realizes he's still a little rusty, is we have not seen Richard Brown really very involved in the game from a physical standpoint, except for the one attack on Atkinson. And I'm a little surprised we haven't seen Brown with a jammer helmet. Now Mark James catches up, battling Mark Weber. Sean Atkinson back to block out Micah Martin. Weber absolutely labels James to the track. Now it's number 19, Sean Atkinson. He sets him up a reverse Texas Bulldog by Atkinson. Now he picks Martin up like yesterday's laundry and throws him face first